But Junior, did you ever find out what kind of fish that was you caught up there in the lake?
Yeah, found out what they said it was, a red grouper.
Red grouper? You mean that wasn't a bass at all?
Well, I didn't get him out of the lake. I got his head out back of the pickup truck. My brother, he come over to the racetrack, and I was over there, and I drunk about a quart. Had about a quart in the car. And he told me, said, look here what I caught. And I looked over in the truck, and there lay the biggest bass-looking head I ever seen. I'd had enough to where I couldn't exactly have told. I never seen a darn grouper. I didn't know where it was a grouper bass. You know, bass head could change after he got that big. My size is generally about 8 or 10 pound at the very biggest, or maybe 12. But my boy caught one weigh 12 pound. I didn't know what a 22-pound bass head would look like, so it looked like a bass head to me. And I pick him up looking at him, and somebody walk up. He had a tag in his mouth, said 22 pound 9 ounces. So I just pulled the tag out of his mouth. Pulled the tag out of his mouth and asked me how much he weighed, and told him, said, where'd you catch him? I said, down on Lake Lanier. I was just, I was expecting my brother any minute to speak up and say he caught it. He never did say a word, just stood there. Well, here comes some more looking at him, and I hand him to my boy, and he take him over to the stand where the announcer, he called it out, and said he sure was a big head. The next morning, the radio man, he called it out over the radio, and here come a game and fish man up there, and well, the rest of the story about it, you know. He wanted to say, come up there a story about the big fish, and I'd been got me 2 pints of whiskey, and I drank one of them. And so I told my boy in the house, I didn't look like he's gonna leave, so I told my boy, went in there and took me another big drink, told him, come out of the store, so that's what I was gonna tell him.